everybody. How are we doing? Is everybody enjoying Telus Spark After Dark? Nice. Did you enjoy the AI-generated music that Jeff created? Apparently all the music we're playing tonight is AI-generated and put in conjunction with the theme. So welcome to our Spark Speaker Series. I would like to thank our next speaker, Dr. Gideon Christian. They're an assistant professor of AI and law at the Faculty of Law, University of Calgary. And prior to joining the University of Calgary, he was a technology lawyer with the Government of Canada at the Department of Justice. Those are pretty fancy accolades there. So please help me welcoming Dr. Gideon Christian.
Thank you very much, Elsa, for the introduction. Good evening and welcome to this event today. I would like to start this presentation with a story, and that story goes back to January 2019 at a city known as Woodbridge in New Jersey in the United States. The Woodbridge Police Department were responding to an incident at a Hampton Inn hotel, a shoplifting incident. While trying to escape, the suspect almost ran over a police officer, and that elevated his crime from mere shoplifting to a more very serious crime of aggravated assault on an officer. The suspect successfully escaped, but the store has a camera. Using cutting-edge artificial intelligence facial recognition technology, the police were able to match the face of the suspect to an individual in their database. That individual happens to be this gentleman, Niger Parks, 31-year-old black male. Based on evidence from AI facial recognition technology, the police were able to obtain an arrest warrant. The following month, Mr. Park was arrested. Following his arrest, he denied any involvement with the crime. That's what criminals, of course, do when they were arrested, is it not? He was transported to jail. When he was transported to jail, an AI recidivism risk assessment tool was used to assess his risk for the purpose of determining whether he should be eligible for bail. That AI recidivism risk assessment tool determined that Mr. Park was high risk, and for that reason, he was not granted bail. He spent the next 10 days in jail until his mother and his fiancée were able to get him a good lawyer and post a good bail bond. Following his release from cell, he continued to assert his innocence, deny any involvement with the crime. But when the prosecution offered him a plea deal, he considered accepting the plea deal. And now you might probably wonder, why would he accept a plea deal if he was really innocent? Why would he accept to plead guilty to a crime he never committed, a crime that he has always asserted that he never committed? Well, it turns out that Mr. Park has a previous criminal record. So he figured out that if he goes to trial, what jury would want to believe an ex-con? If he goes to trial and get convicted, he was probably going to spend more time in jail. So he seriously considered accepting the plea deal from the prosecution. But before the plea deal was sealed, something dramatic happened. Mr. Parks found a Western Union transaction receipt. And you begin to wonder, what has Western Union transaction receipt got to do with this crime? Well, that Western Union transaction receipt showed that at the exact time the crime in question was being committed, Mr. Parks was 50 kilometers away from the crime scene at a Western Union money transfer shop where he was wiring money to his fiancée. What does that tell you? The AI facial recognition technology got it wrong, very wrong. That notwithstanding though, Mr. Parks spent another year and some good lawyer fee trying to get the court to throw away the charges against him. You see, in the United States, there has been 6 documented cases of forced arrest arising from police use of AI facial recognition technology. All the arrests have involved individuals from one particular racial group. They are all black people. The most recent being the case of Miss Portia Woodruff, 8-month pregnant woman who was arrested for, guess what crime? Carjacking. I mean, on a lighter note, I can think of many crimes 8-month pregnant women are capable of committing, but carjacking definitely will not make my list. So, what exactly is AI facial recognition technology? AI facial recognition technology or facial recognition technology is an AI-based biometric technology that uses computer vision to match to identify individuals based on their unique facial features. Now, one of the biggest problems with AI facial recognition technology is bias, racial and gender bias. While this technology has been shown to have some 99.2% accuracy rate in identifying white male faces, that accuracy rate dramatically drops when it comes to darker skinned individuals, the worst being darker skinned females or black women, where the technology has been shown to have some 35% error rate in identifying darker skinned women. Now, in Canada, we do not have any record of forced arrest arising from police use of facial recognition technology. But that may not necessarily be because we don't have one. You see, for some time, major police departments in Canada, including the RCMP, were using Clearview AI facial recognition technology secretly and wrongly until their secret use of this technology was exposed by an investigative journalist. One area, though, in Canada, where we have well-documented case of racial bias arising from use of AI facial recognition technology is in the context of immigration enforcement. And this arises in situations where individuals, foreign nationals who have entered Canada and sought refugee status, after successfully obtaining refugee status, many years after their successful refugee claim, you have government department coming to revoke their refugee status on the basis that their face have been matched to some faces of some other individuals in the immigration database. And a very good example I use to illustrate this is the case I refer to as the Somali 2. That was the case of Barry versus Canada, Minister for Citizenship and Immigration. And the case involved two Somali women who entered Canada and made a successful refugee claim. Years after their successful refugee claim, the Minister for Public Safety, represented by IRCC, Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, and CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, sought to revoke the refugee status of these women on the basis that their face were matched to some other individuals who entered Canada as Kenyan nationals, thus implying that these Somali women lied that they were from Somalia when they were from Kenya. So the women challenged the revocation of their refugee status before the federal court. And the federal court was not pleased with the use of facial recognition technology in the identification, in the so-called revocation of their refugee status. In fact, in that case, the federal court referred to facial recognition technology as pseudoscience, junk science, especially when it comes to recognition of darker-skinned women. In Canada so far, there has been 7 cases before the federal court involving 8 individuals who have challenged the revocation of their immigration status based on alleged evidence from facial recognition technology by the Canadian immigration authorities. All the individuals involved are from one particular racial group. Yes, you guessed it, black people, majority of them black women. The same racial group where the technology, the same racial and gender group where the technology has been proven to have or to manifest its worst error rate. So at this point, you may probably be asking, but artificial intelligence technology is supposed to be race neutral, unbiased, and objective. How then does this technology get to acquire bias and even manifest these bias? Well, there are many ways AI could acquire bias, or there are many ways bias could creep into artificial intelligence technology, but we'll focus on just 3 for the purpose of this presentation. And the first is where the tool is deliberately designed to be biased. Now, you can quote me on this. This is a very rare case. Where it exists, then it's a very clear case of bad faith engineering. Second situation, and this is the one I want you to pay the most attention to, is where a biased data is used to train an AI technology. AI is subsistent on big data. Huge amount of data is required to train an AI technology to be able to make prediction, at least with high accuracy. But the problem is that when you use a data that is already tainted by bias to train an AI technology, what the AI technology basically does is to absorb all the pattern in the data, all the bias in the data, and then manifest those same bias in its prediction or its output. So this is a clear case of garbage in, garbage out, or bias in, bias out. Then the third situation where bias could arise from use of artificial intelligence technology is where the technology is trained for use in a particular environment, and that technology is deployed for use in another environment different from the original environment in which that technology or AI technology was trained. In each of these or any of these three cases, there is high likelihood that AI will manifest bias. And bias in AI has continued to be evident in various sectors where artificial intelligence technology is deployed today. You talk about healthcare, you talk about you talk about law enforcement, criminal justice system, hiring and recruitment, and even financial services. Now let us take a look at these sectors, and then you see how barriers, AI bias, manifest as a result of deployment of AI technology in these various sectors. And we're going to start with healthcare or health services. And here we'll cite the real-life example of this lady here, Ms. Jasmine Evans. Ms. Jasmine Evans is a PhD student who was in need of her kidney transplant. Her kidney transplant was delayed for 4 years. The reason being because an algorithm, medical algorithm that was used to assess her health risk, underestimated her health risks based on her race. Medical AI tools tend to adopt what is known as race norming in health risk assessment, whereby health risk is adjusted on the basis of race, often to having adverse impacts on patients of color. And these bias in these AI tools are so embedded in these tools that even medical professionals deploying these tools or using these tools are hardly aware of the existence of this bias in these tools, as well as their impact on patients of color. Fortunately for Ms. Jasmine, she was lucky to live long enough to receive her kidney transplant or her much-needed kidney transplant and continue her studies, her doctoral studies. Now let's go to another sector, law enforcement, predictive policing technology. Predictive policing technology adopts or utilizes AI for the purpose of mapping geographical locations in order to determine or predict the next crime scene or geographic locations with high crime rates. Of course, the essence is supposedly to deploy for supposedly efficient deployment of police resources in those locations. But the problem with this technology, though, is that this technology is trained using data from biased policing and over-policed minority communities. Now, when you use this historically biased police data, especially data from over-policed minority communities to train this AI technology, where do you think will be the next location where this technology will predict the next crime will be? Or where do you think this technology will predict to be the hot crime zone? The same minority communities that are overrepresented in the data used to train the AI technology. And this will now result in further deployment of police resources in those communities, which inevitably result in further over-policing of an already over-policed minority communities. A vicious cycle. Criminal justice system, recidivism risk assessment. AI tools have been developed today for use in what is known as recidivism risk assessment. What exactly is recidivism risk assessment? Recidivism risk assessment is the process of determining the likelihood that an individual in the criminal justice system is going to reoffend. And that determination is very important in some various aspects of the criminal justice system. For example, when an accused person is arrested, the prediction whether that accused person is likely to reoffend is necessary for purpose of determining whether they should be released on bail pending their trial. Remember the case of Niger Park earlier after he was transported to jail? That was the tool that was used to determine whether he was high risk, whether he should be granted bail or not. And the tool predicted that he was high risk, even though it subsequently emerged that he never actually committed the crime. Another segment of the criminal justice system where recidivism risk its use, it's when an accused person has been convicted and the judge has to determine whether they should get the minimum sentence or the maximum sentence or somewhere in between. The likelihood that that person or the accused person or the convict is going to reoffend is very important in making that determination. And when that determination is made and they are sentenced, now they have to be incarcerated, the correctional officers need that prediction in order to determine where the accused will be housed, whether in a low, medium, or maximum security facility. And even when they are housed in that facility, that determination is also used in determining whether they will be eligible for parole. So these are various aspects of the criminal justice system where recidivism risk assessment is vital and important. And we have an AI tool that makes that prediction. But the problem with the AI tools that makes this prediction is that these tools tend to manifest racial bias, or what I refer to in my research as algorithmic racism. In fact, a research that was conducted by a US think tank, ProPublica, on Compass. Compass is one of the most widely used AI risk assessment tools in the United States. That research showed that AI tool, Compass, tend to overpredict the risks posed by people of color by twice compared to white defendants. And this is one of the most widely used AI tools in the United States. What about hiring and recruitment? This is also another sector where AI tool is deployed today for the purpose of streamlining hiring, recruitment, as well as workplace management. Of course, in order to make the process objective. The fact, though, is that the process is not as objective as it is often portrayed to be. Examples of AI tools used in this sector, of course, include resume screening softwares, interview chatbot, as well as algorithm for evaluation or performance evaluation. But the problem now, let's take, for example, the resume screening softwares. These resume screening softwares are often trained on resumes of individuals from dominant racial group, mainly white applicants. And when you train this AI tool with resume from individuals from a particular dominant racial group, what it simply does is to be able to identify and recognize patterns from that dominant group. So when you are using it to screen the softwares, what will it do? It will most likely screen out resumes of individuals from minority racial groups that are not adequately represented in the data used to train the technology. And you may probably wonder, how then does this tool get to learn about race? I can tell you that in my resume does not indicate that I am black. And I'm very sure too, your resume does not indicate that you are white, Caucasian, or brown. So how then does this tool learn about race? Well, they do so through what is known as proxy of race. And this could include your name, it could include your affiliation, where you live, your postal code, and even in some cases, institutions you attended. For example, if someone tells you they went to, let's say, Howard University in Washington, D.C., it's likely you can tell, what their race is. Or maybe they went to Harvard, right? So even though these explicit race data are not used in training these tools, they learn race through what is known as proxy of race. Now, another sector we are going to look at is in financial services, where artificial intelligence technology is also deployed today for the purpose of assessing creditworthiness of individuals applying for financial services such as loan or mortgage application. But the problem, again, with use of AI in this sector is that these AI tools are trained on still on historical data that has embedded past decisions as well as systemic barriers such as redlining. And when you use this tool to train AI technology, they basically replicate those past decisions, those past societal barriers. And if you think this is just being made up, I will encourage you to read the book by Calvin Lawrence, an IBM engineer, entitled Hidden in White Sites, how AI empowers and deepens systemic racism. He recounted real-life experience of, family members who were trying to apply for mortgage. Notwithstanding good job, good credit record they had, they were still denied the application. And even the officer could not explain the reason other than the fact that the computer made the decision. The widespread adoption of artificial intelligence today, of course, continue to highlight incidents, cases of racial bias. Kevin Lawrence, in this book, actually recounted a particular experience where he could not get an AI-powered soap dispenser in a public washroom to dispense soap to wash his hand. The reason being because the tool was trained on predominantly white skin and hence could not be activated by his darker skin color. Kevin's example is illustrative of how embedded racial bias could be in AI, impacting even the most mundane aspects of our lives as people of color. The adoption of artificial intelligence technology today in various sectors brings to light the need for us to examine their impact on people of color. It is imperative that we examine the technology we deploy and their impact on society in order to ensure that our technological advancement creates a more just and equitable society. And that is very important. It is important, of course, and this requires, indeed, it requires advocacy. It requires willingness to challenge the status quo, because we must ensure that the digital future we seek to build is one which is equitable, a digital future which is inclusive, and of course, a digital future that is reflective of our highest aspirations as Canadians. Thank you very much for your attention.